One of the best things you can have on your layout, and something that absolutely adds the best look to your scenery, is trees. And they come in many different shapes and sizes. So we're in scale here, so we're looking at these tiny little guys, but obviously for HO they're going to be double the size, and so on and so forth, much more detailed. These are quite nice. These are made by Bush, German company, and I have to tell you, they're not bad. They're not super cheap, they're not mega expensive. They're quite robust. So I used them on a layout used by a child, as if they're fairly robust. Pine trees are not super fantastic, but they're not super unrealistic either. They're not bad. But there comes a point when you need something a bit more realistic than what I would call hobby trees. I mean, these are good, but what you're going to need is Woodland Scenics. And that's what we're looking at next. We're looking at the Woodland Scenics tree system, where you can effectively end up with something looking like this, which is considerably more tree-like than the hobby trees. We are going to make 4 different types of these, and in the sort of best methods of I don't know what's going to happen and warts and all, we're going to see which ones come out the best. So these are the Woodland Scenics tree armatures. I use the 2-inch, 2.5-inch for end scale. I would probably maybe go to 3-inch, 4-inch tops, but ideally most of the trees I would think are going to be around about this size. But this is a very personal thing. Depends where you're modelling. You could definitely go for bigger. So let's have a look at the Woodland Scenic system. There are 2 parts to it. There are the tree armatures, the bendy bits. As stated, I use the 3/4 inch to 2-inch. I usually go for the 2-inch-ish. The 3/4 inch I find are too small, or unless you're doing baby trees. I mean, actually compare these to the end scale bush trees, and you'll see they are actually bigger. So these are the tree armatures I use. I'm very happy to use slightly bigger ones if necessary. These are not mega expensive. I mean, the big advantage is the smaller the size, the more you get in a packet. So hooray for end scale. Second part is the fine leaf foliage from Woodland Scenics, which is effectively, I think it's called seagrass or sea foam. It's a natural product, and actually if you look carefully you can see some of them have got little tree-like branches anyway, and that's a sort of separate thing that you could make a tree from that. So here's an armatured tree, but you could actually make, if you really want to, a tree from the sea foam branches, but they're going to be a lot more delicate, so it's really up to you what you do. So according to our good friends at Woodland Scenics, it's very simple. It's basically take the armature, twist it around, add the high tack glue. This is not the stuff they recommend, but it's similar. Wait for the high tack glue to dry and add the foliage, and that's what we're going to do. So first things first, I find that the armatures themselves are a little bit shiny and also a bit plasticky. Now, there are lots and lots of tree videos online. There's some really reputable model makers, much better than I, about how you need to sand it down and cut the injection mouldings off. I don't know if you can see. There's some little, I don't know if the camera catches it, but there's some little circles there. These are injection moulding marks. You could cut these down, file these down, give it a trunk-like appearance, dry brush it. I mean, do you know what? This is end scale. All you're going to really see is a little bit at the bottom. So what I do, first thing, I take the good old file. I find the quickest way to deal with those is just to literally file them down until they become not shiny and they're very hard to see. So for example, let's have a look. There's one there. That's basically gone. I'll do another one just to show you how quickly that is. It's a lot quicker than cutting it with a knife. So that's filed down. There's one there, and you can see that there. I think I've just caught the light. So we do file it down. Sorry, my table's moving. Probably file it down a tiny bit more. And that is effectively gone. Next thing we do, these are quite shiny, you can see the shine in the light. We're going to use this stuff. Now again, there are lots of videos about use this stage paint, use that stage paint. I mean really, we're talking frugal modelling here, right? You're buying all this paint, you know, rattle cans, it's lots of stuff, it's lots of stages. I find this is perfectly adequate. So this is the Revell NATO Olive. And literally a couple of sprays and it just takes the shine off, and it dulls it down and makes it slightly more, I would say, sort of grey green colour. So I'm going to go off, go and spray these guys with this stuff, 4 of them, and then I'll be right back. So this is sprayed. Not quite so shiny. So the next thing is to bend it into a tree shape. Now it's very tempting just to give it some random bends. What I tend to find you end up with, I don't know if you can see that, to me that looks like an oval shape, whereas actually most trees are actually round. So try to attain a rounder or circular shape. It will give you a much better result. A bit more like that. Obviously with the base, everyone on every video I've seen just says cut the base off. No one ever uses them, but as everyone else does note, they're absolutely brilliant for working with your tree. So that's a bit more of a round shape. Right, we've got 4 armatures. Next, we use the sticky tacky glue, hobby tack, whatever Woodland Scenics recommends or similar. We apply it and then we leave it to become tacky, which takes about 15 minutes. I find it's much easier to apply with a brush than it would be just using the nozzle, and you only have to apply it on the upper side, as that's the side you want the foliage to stick. This stuff dries clear apparently, so you can't see it. That's one. And now we wait. Okay, so I told you this was a warts and all channel. Hopefully I make these mistakes so you don't have to. This glue does not take 15 minutes to cure. It cures non-sticky and it dries white. However, I'm going to keep this one to see if it's any good anyway. So basically with this stuff you have to use it while it's wet. But we do have the Woodland Scenics recommended stuff, so we'll use this as well. Option 1 is lichen. You know this stuff, it's been around for years, really cool stuff. Usually used for bushes, usually very much, I would say, more HO than N scale, but we'll try this. We're going to try and drape this on the tree. Hopefully it doesn't hang off too much, and see what it looks like. Actually quite hard to stick it onto the tree because it tends to not stick, but we'll persevere with this. Let's leave that to dry and see what comes of it. Option 2, or choice 2, is we're going to go with the usual stuff as recommended by Woodland Scenics, the fine leaf foliage, which is, as I said, is like, again, like lichen. It's a natural product, and we'll see what the result is. Yeah, Woodland Scenics are not kidding. Stuff literally just sticks to this tacky glue. It really does live up to its name. What I also notice is you go through this fine leaf foliage fairly quickly, and it's not inexpensive stuff actually. Right, let's leave that one to dry. Right, option 3 is this clump foliage. I've got the light green colour here. It does say trees on it. Let's give this a go. Suffice to say, this clump foliage is considerably cheaper than the fine leaf foliage we just used. Pick up our tacky tree. See what we can do with this stuff. Okay. Yeah, again, it sticks very well. I'm not. So you can see the effect I'm going for is I'm going for trees that have more detail rather than just a big lump of leaves. So again, you roll it on, you kind of push it over both sides. It seems to work. Right, that's not bad. Let's leave it to dry. See what we get. Okay, and the last thing we'll try are foliage clusters. Again, it says can be used for trees. I'm not sure what the difference is between these and the clump foliage, but I guess we'll see. Here's our tacky tree. Oh yeah, it seems it is different. It's more stringy, it looks like. And there are our 4 trees. Okay, so what I aim to do, and I don't know if it's going to work or not, as I said, it's a warts and all channel, is spray some scenic cement on each tree, and then cover in something very similar to the sort of blended turf. I would go more for the sort of greenish than the sort of earth blend. Just sprinkle it on very lightly and just see the result we get. Okay, so we sprinkled the turf powder on the trees, and this is what we've got. So on the lichen, yeah, you can see it, but like I say, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of the lichen for N scale. I think it's out of scale for HR. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant, but looks okay for a tree, but for N scale, no. Finally, foliage. This is where you see the biggest difference, because you've got the foliage, you can see the little branches of it, and you can see the differentiation or the contrast. This is where it makes the biggest difference. So for a foreground tree, absolutely brilliant. Foliage clusters or clump foliage. I keep on forgetting which way around I've got these. Yeah, it does make a difference. Very nice contrast. I absolutely love it. Even more so with this one. Very, very nice. Sorry, there's still bits of scenic cement you can see, but that will dry clear. Yeah, very, very nice. I think I probably sprinkled a bit too much there. You only need a tiny, tiny bit. So, in my view, for the best background trees, use the clump foliage or the foliage clusters from Woodland Scenics. I think it gives absolutely brilliant result for background trees, middle ground trees. You could use it for foreground trees. Sprinkle some other scenic material on, very sparingly I would say, with the scenic cement, and it really works. For the foreground tree, I'd recommend the fine leaf foliage. Again, you can see some scenic cement there. Very good, but remember, this is very, very expensive stuff. So I think overall, these guys are the win. Thanks for watching.